Alzheimer. The guardianship is, this particular guardianship is different from someone that is frail, elderly, or a vulnerable person. We'll be married 25 years in November, and I've been stripped of all my rights and privileges as a wife. Every American needs to know what the consequences are if they do not sign a dual power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, and a living will. A solution that could be cost-effective is involving the Division of Motor Vehicle. When everyone is there that drives, that is standing there or sitting there, they could be reading how important it is and what the ramifications are if they do not sign those three things. Just like you have the organ donor on a your driver's license, you could have those on there, and you already have a notary right there at the
DMV.
Yeah, exactly. Also, we need to be aware, and someone needs to look into the differences of guardianship between a Broward County and Dade County. They're different rules and regulations. So the whole state of Florida needs to have one rules and regulation on how we're going to handle guardianship. From what I understand, the guardianship is to protect the assets of a vulnerable person, and then you have to question who is looking out for and overseeing those protectors. There needs to come a point where not only do I have the responsibility of trying to care for my husband and trying to get some help, which is financially draining, I also have this guardianship. There needs to be a cap on how much money we're going to spend each year, because this disease, different from others, can go on for years.
You had to give up your executive position to care. How much money were you given to do that, to care for your husband?
It's coming out of our own
Zero is the answer.
It's nothing. It's coming out of our own pocket, whatever we've saved, whatever we've worked for all these years.
Is that part of the problem?
Yes.
Okay. We want to open the discussion now to Congressman Deutsch.
Well, there are two really important points, I think, Jason. First, the issue of caregivers is so often seen just in personal terms, which it is, and obviously the impact is so significant, but the impact on our economy as well, by having folks who are this committed work tirelessly and commit the kind of time, it prevents, in this case, it prevents you from pursuing your executive position. We need to keep that in mind, and as we look at those, and as we look at research, investing in research is not just, and investing in ways to find treatments for Alzheimer's is not just for the good of the patients and for the good of the families. Now, ultimately, we have an opportunity to do something about an illness that impacts our economy to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars a year. It's in everyone's interest for Congress to do as much as it can to work to come up with treatments, just as we've seen great strides in cancer research and heart disease research as well over the recent years.
And you can argue that caregivers suffer more than the actual Alzheimer's patients, you know, with what they have to go through. And now I want to open up Mayor of Miami Gardens, the Honorable Shirley Gibson. You are coming from sort of the same boat here, in that your father is an Alzheimer's patient, and you are one of two caregivers, your sister and yourself, correct?
Yes, I am, Jason. You know, it's very personal when we talk about Alzheimer's. My father was diagnosed about 5 years ago. He's 86 years old, and he exemplified, you know, we saw symptoms, we didn't know what it was earlier, but now we know. And he's here. My sister is his primary caregiver, and she chose to retire early from her job so that she could care for him, because we had tried to put him in some other, you know, care, and it just didn't work. And, you know, she doesn't get any compensation for that. And I can tell you now, at this point, we are very concerned about my sister as a primary caregiver, because it's a 24/7 kind of job. I mean, we help her, but we're very concerned about if something happens to her, that she gets sick, because that's what happens to caregivers with Alzheimer's patients. They become vulnerable to different kinds of illness because of the work and the stress. and there is no compensation or anything for her. We help, you know, financially and with our time, but, you know, there is no help for her to take some time to really take time off, you know, so that she can really go away and you know, get some rest herself. Those are the kind of things that families are confronted with. And as the mayor of a city with predominantly African American population, I've looked at some of the data, and I see that a lot of the markers that say who are prone to have Alzheimer's is in the population where I am. And so it concerns me about what are we doing and how are we preparing to, you know, try to advocate and do everything we can for people who are going to be potentially patients who have Alzheimer's. And I don't think that we're doing enough. We really have to. And, you know, we have this discussion about healthcare, how we can't afford to have healthcare in this country. I mean, these numbers are looming. We understand what is going to happen when we talk about 2050. It's just around the corner. It really isn't that far away. And when we say we can't have health care, there's no reason we should make that statement, because this disease is a very devastating disease. It's a long-term disease, requires a lot of care for a patient. I mean, it's going to be devastating on this economy. So it is health care. And we have to do something when we know this is a kind of a health tsunami that's rolling down, and we cannot put our heads in the sand and say we can't afford to do anything about it. We have to. And you know, as a face, as everyone else here at this panel, I really want people to understand this. It doesn't discriminate in that sense, you know. And now that individuals are being diagnosed much earlier, we realize that the care and the expense of it is going to be tremendous. And I really want people to understand we all have to advocate. We all have to do everything we can. And I want to say, on a personal note, I participate in the study that's been done at the University of Miami, where you can get in the study so you can begin to see, are you prone, do you have some of the characteristics, some of the, you know, DNA that, you know, they really need to know to be in this study. And I think it's important for people to join the study, because oftentimes we don't do that, and we really need people to be in the study. So I want people to know I'm a face of that. I've joined the study. I think it's important to be a part of that. It is nothing to be afraid of. You want to help, and it takes the human factor, the human person, to be in these studies to do that. And I encourage everyone to, if they can participate, to please do that.
Well, step one in fighting this disease may be awareness. And back even 20 years ago, and I would like to hear your comments on this, a lot of people were almost embarrassed of this disease, swept it under the rug and pretended like it wasn't there. We're not there anymore, I don't think. But where are we now?
We are still there. I had a friend of my husband's ask me if it was contagious.
Wow.
People, your friends, you have lost some friends along the way because they are afraid of catching it. No one wants to really see what's happening if they knew the person from before.
Contagious. Doctor, obviously that's hogwash.
But that's the
That's what you're saying.
yeah,
that's the mentality a lot of people think.
That's the realistic,
Right.
that's the reality out there.
Yeah. What's it going to take now to take the next step? Besides educating people, what else needs to be done, do you think?
Well, I'm all for that dual power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, and living will to be signed. Because when I think of the money that we're spending year after year for this guardianship, what is that really doing to take care of my husband?
Yeah. Russ, I'm interested to see what you think. Obviously, you're not embarrassed at all. You don't mind if symptoms show on camera or in person. Again, what brings you to have those types of guts?
I am very confident that in my lifetime we'll have an effective treatment for Alzheimer's disease. When you think of it, there are not many diseases, major diseases, in our world that eventually we don't come up with at least an effective treatment, something to even just slow it down a little. The Holy Grail, of course, would be the cure, and of course we'd all like to be able to cure it. We have a model. I speak about it, and it's the HIV/AIDS model. HIV/AIDS took this country and around the world by storm, killing people indiscriminately. Horrible disease. Today you don't hear as much about it. The reason being is they have more effective treatments. They never cured it, but they have more effective treatments that allow you to live out a more normal lifespan and a normal way of life. Any Alzheimer's